Okay, sit yourself onto your lift and then come into a good cross-legged position, just ready for your morning practice. So it seems very messy in here, but just bear with me a second. So sit yourself in a good cross-legged position and just observe your balance. Just listen to the breath as it enters and as it exits. Hold onto your knees and elevate your heart area upwards, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Spending a little time to just observe the sound of your breath as it enters and as it exits. Filling your lungs from the bottom to the top and emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Maybe after sitting for a little while you observe that perhaps you need to adjust your seat bones on the lift so that you feel balanced on the inside. And then release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste, press the palms firmly together, lengthen from your armpits into your elbows, so that there's a little space between the chest and the hands. Just continuing to inhale from the bottom of the lungs to the top, listening to the breath. So sometimes we can inhale and exhale in different ways. And if you're feeling a little foggy in the brain, it can be good to just flush the sinuses with the in-breath and the out-breath, especially the out-breath. So take out breaths that fill the lungs from the bottom to the top, and then flush the sinuses with the out-breath, the udanic breath. So a slightly more forceful exhalation, flushing the sinuses and even flushing up into the brain. Then bring the breath to a normal rhythm. Draw your chin down to meet your chest up to meet your chin, and spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere or something. Bring your hands upwards, that's down to the knees, palms facing upwards. Just connecting the tip of the index finger with the tip of the thumb, just stretching the other fingers away from the palms of the hands. Just a gesture of peacefulness and wisdom that we can carry into our practice. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Just hold onto your knees, elevating the heart area upwards, drawing the shoulders down away from your ears. Just take deep inhalations, fill in the lungs from the bottom to the top and empty in your lungs from the top to the bottom. We're going to do a little bit of brahmari pranayama, which helps to just warm up the body in the throat and in the head and in the chest, but it also helps to clear out the stale air that we collect in the sinuses. Let's take some normal in breaths, normal out breaths for a moment. And brahmari, if you recall, is the hummed exhalation until you run out of breath, and then a normal inhalation. So you hum until the lungs are empty and the sound of the breath stops. The sound of the humming stops when the lungs are empty, and then follow that with normal inhalations. We'll do 4. So you can keep your eyes open or closed, whichever feels more beneficial for you. Closed is good. Let's take a normal exhalation. And then a normal inhalation. And then we'll begin. And then bring the breath back to a normal rhythm, just gently opening your eyes, maintaining the resonance in the sinus region, in the throat and in the head and in the chest. And then elevate the heart area up to the ceiling and turn gently to the right side, drawing your abdomen across, your ribs and your shoulders, using your out breath to gently intensify the turn. And then come back to the center, hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest, elevating the heart area upwards, and then turning to the left. Using each exhalation to move a little more deeply into the pose. And then gently come back to the center. Just come off the lift into all fours. Have your hands as wide apart as your mat. Step back a little, turn your toes under. Press your palms really firmly into the floor. And then come up into dog down. Just let the back of your neck be long. Let the head hang down to the floor. Feeling as though blood rushes into the head a little. Continue to work with deep, considered inhalations and exhalations, bringing in positive energy from the environment. And distributing that energy throughout the limbs. Just let gravity pull the facial muscles down to the floor. So just wear a neutral expression, letting the face muscles relax. And then step your feet forwards, just come up into a standing position. Align the outside edge of your feet with the edge of the mat, turning your toes inwards. So have your hands on your hips for a moment, lift up into the chest. Just observe the energy you've brought into your head so far. And then raise your arms. Raise your arms to the ceiling, lifting the chest. Spreading your fingers, spreading your palms, just making your extension active from the toes to the fingertips. Hook the thumb into the crease of the elbows, wrap your fingers around your elbows. If you've got a problem with your back, then just come halfway and then bring your elbows onto the top of a tabletop or the back of a chair. Otherwise, just bring the upper body down to just hang down to the floor. But activate the legs. Lift the legs as though they're arrows pointing from the floor to the ceiling. Lifting the legs away from the floor, lifting the shins out of the ankle sockets, the kneecaps away from the shins, the thighs away from the kneecaps, all the way up into the hip socket. Just breathe even, deep inhalations and exhalations. Let the face muscles relax. Let gravity pull the facial muscles downwards. Do some more of those flushing exhalations in the sinus region, in the brain. And then release your arms to the floor, bring your hands to the floor. If you can't reach the floor, find the shins. Just gently come up onto the fingertips, projecting the chin and the chest forwards. And then just one more time, walk your hands towards the other end of the mat. Have your hands shoulder width apart this time. Have your feet hip width apart. And then come up back into dog down, but again, let the facial muscles just relax and pull down to the floor. Flush the sinus region with the out breath. And then step your feet forwards, just come up into the standing position. Come into tadasana. And just let the facial muscles be soft again. Gravity is in the opposite direction, or we're in the opposite direction in relation to gravity. So the facial muscles can fit back into position. But try to keep the facial muscles completely relaxed. We're in a neutral expression. Softening the jaw and the tongue and the throat, while you extend into your tadasana, lengthening into the fingertips, lifting up into the heart area, stamping back into your heels, tucking the tailbone in, drawing the belly button to the spine a little. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Bring your arms out nice and wide in toward your chest, and then step or jump, go wide. Go as wide as you can with your legs for prasarita, padottanasana. So really wide legs for prasarita. Turn your toes in, have your hands on your hips, lift up into the chest, and then hinge at the hips, come forwards, hinging at the hips. Be light on your fingertips. And then bring your head down if you can, or bring it onto blocks if you can't. Again, letting gravity drive the facial muscles down to the floor. Just wearing a neutral expression. you can reach around the outsides of your ankles, but keep the weight away from your head. Keep the legs firmly activated. Listening to the breath. Keep the legs straight. So straight legs with, if you can, tighten your kneecaps. Lift the backs of the thighs up towards the ceiling. And then come back up to the first stage. Just have your hands on the floor underneath your shoulders, projecting the chin and the chest forwards. Be on fingertips. So lifting the chest, looking forwards. And then turn your left toes in slightly, your right leg and foot all the way out, and then walk your hands over to the right side. Bring your right hand onto the shin, bring your left hand onto the chest, onto the hip, and then turn the chest all the way up to the ceiling for a really wide trikonasana. And then reach up with the top hand. Look up if you can. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Keeping the facial muscles soft. Keeping the jaw soft. Keeping the tongue soft. And then bring that top hand down. Just maybe bend that right leg a little. Just come back into prasarita, padottanasana. Just back into the center. Lifting up into the chest. And then again bringing the head down, but keeping the legs straight. Reaching around the outside of the ankles if you can. Keeping the weight away from your head. Hitting your legs back so that your weight is in your feet and your heels rather than your head. And then come back into prasarita padottanasana, the first stage. And then this time turn the right toes in, turn the left leg and foot all the way out. Walk your way over to that left side, bring your left hand onto the shin. Turn the chest, bring your right hand onto the hip, turn the chest all the way up to the ceiling, turn the abdomen all the way up to the ceiling, and raise up with that top arm. Just breathing in and out through the nose if you can. So it's a wider trikonasana than we're perhaps accustomed to. Sometimes it's really good to do a wide trikonasana. Just reach up into the top hand, try not to collapse heavily onto that left arm. Reach from the heart area into both arms evenly. Okay, bring that other hand, that top hand down. Just bring yourself back into prasarita padottanasana, just projecting the chin and the chest forwards. Just one more time, bringing the head down. Reaching around heels if you can, or just keep leaving your hands on the mat. Heels of the hands in line with heels of the feet. If you've got your hands on the floor, fingers pointing forwards, keeping the weight away from your head. Letting the gravity draw the facial muscles down to the floor. And then just bring the hands back underneath your shoulders, projecting the chin and the chest forwards, just feeling the difference in gravity in the facial muscles. And then bring the heels of the hands down, bend your knees, and then step or jump your feet back together, and then come up into tadasana. Inner edge of the feet together, lifting up into the chest. Elevating the heart area upwards. Listening to the breath. Just observing perhaps how your energy has changed. Turn the palms of the hands all the way out, broadening the chest, broadening the collarbone. Keep the fingers stretching away from the heels of the hands. Just feel how you can breathe into the chest. When the chest is open, maybe you can breathe into the chest with less resistance. Stretch your arms forwards, turn the palms all the way out like you're doing the breaststroke. Keep your arms straight for as long as you can, and then bring the tips of the fingers together, walking the hands up your back. And then you probably end up with your hands like this. So can you reactivate your arms? So if you draw your elbows behind you, if you make that action to consciously draw the elbows back a little, then the thumbs may become a bit closer together. Lengthen consciously from the shoulders into the elbows, which is a bit more subtle, but it means that the palms of the hands come a little closer. And then squeeze the elbows in towards each other so that the palms maybe connect more precisely. Lengthen from the heels of the hands into the fingertips. And just take deep inhalations. Deep exhalations, listening to the breath. Feeling how perhaps the inhalation is less resistant because the chest is already open. There's the effort of opening the chest is already done for you. And then gently release your arms. Stretch your hands down to the floor, feeling all of that energy in the hands, in the wrists, in the arms. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Just listen to the breath. Turning the palms all the way out again so that the collarbone broadens. And observe whether you can breathe differently, whether you can fill the upper area of the lungs more efficiently. And then gently release. So we're going to come down onto the floor. using a bolster for our back. If you haven't got a bolster, then you can just use some cushions and some pillows, just to give you a little elevation in the chest. So we're going to come into padottanasana, supta padottanasana, using the bolster. Now you'll probably find when you come back into supta padottanasana that you will probably need a lift underneath your head. So get your folded blanket, just make sure that it's evenly folded, and put that in place so that you can rest your head. Because the one thing that you don't want in these reclining poses is when you're leaning back, you don't want your chin to be higher up to the ceiling than your forehead. And if your head rolls back, then your kind of chin is always higher. So you want length at the back of the neck, so that when you bring your head down, your chin and your forehead are at level. That's a little tip. It just helps you to quieten the brain. So come back into just seated padottanasana with the bolster behind you. You don't want to necessarily be crammed into that bolster. It depends on how kind of sturdy your bolster is. If it's a really kind of sturdy one, you might want to sit away from it a little bit. But if this is a well-used bolster, it's kind of a bit flat at one end, so that's usually okay if I sit close to that in supta padottanasana. Just get hold of the big toes and lift the heart area up to the ceiling. Now when you've got hold of your big toes, chances are your side ribs probably feel a little trapped by the arms. You can bend your elbows out to the side so that the elbows, so that the side ribs are a little more open. But if you get hold of the shins, then you can really lift up into the chest, and your side ribs are maybe a little freer. So just observe that openness of the side ribs. And then release your shins. Just bring your hands behind you, lift up into the heart area. So push your hands into the floor so that you can lengthen the spine along the bolster. And then bring your head down, just repositioning the blanket so that you are supporting your head sufficiently. So maybe you have to come in and out just to find the ideal position for you. So don't sit there in discomfort. If you are uncomfortable, just adjust your position. Maybe shuffle away from the bolster a little. If you're wearing glasses, it's nice to take them off when you're in a reclining pose like this. But just feel how the bolster in your back really helps to broaden the front of the body. So the abdominal region gets a really good opening. The diaphragm region feels broad and open, and the collarbone is really wide and open. So it's almost like the bolster is doing the namaskarasana for you, doing the prayer position, hands behind the back for you. It's opening the chest. So we're just going to focus on normal inhalations, and again just flushing the out breath from the sinuses. Just gently, don't overdo it. So we're not trying to push the breath too hard. We're just listening to the breath. And just letting the out breath be a little more forceful. So if this pose is uncomfortable for your hips, then put some blocks underneath your thighs, the outer thighs. Otherwise, just focusing on the breath. Just bring your breath back to a normal rhythm. Just observe your breath. Observe your in-breath, observe your out-breath. And observe which of those breaths is longer, the in-breath or the out-breath. Maybe they're already the same length. But chances are perhaps the in-breath is a little deeper, the out-breath is a little more shallow perhaps, maybe the other way around. So consciously aim to make the in-breath the same length as the out-breath. The best method is to count the breath. So as you inhale, count as you inhale until the lungs are empty, lungs are full. So perhaps you count for the count of 5. So breathe out for a count of 5. So just bring in that breath into evenness between the in-breath and the out-breath. So breathing in for a count of 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever feels most natural for you. And then just aiming to make the out-breath the same length. So you might have to adjust the breaths. So maybe you find that the out-breath is naturally longer and it's naturally maybe 1 count longer than the in-breath. So try and match the in-breath to the out-breath. Just keep working in that way until you've found that equilibrium of inhalation and exhalation. So this is the first stage of samavritti pranayama. Just making the breath even. Maybe after a little time you can add another number to the count. So add another number to both counts, to the in-breath and the out-breath. So this breath pattern should be gentle, just gentle and observational. There should be no strain. So maybe where you started with just a count of 4 or 5, maybe you're now on a count of 8 or 9 or 10. So just allowing the breath to feel natural without physical intervention. Just counting the breath so that they're even. And then bring the breath back to a normal rhythm. Just normal inhalations, normal exhalations. And then when you have brought your breath back to a normal rhythm, just push your elbows into the floor. Hold on to the sides of the mat, push your elbows into the floor, lift the chest, and then just gently push yourself up into seated position. Just take hold of the shins, lift up into the chest, just observing the energy around the head and the shoulders, and the chest and the abdomen, and all the way into the hips, into the knees, into the shins, into the feet. Just that feeling of complete lightness of energy, continuing to breathe all the way into the top of the lungs. Just giving yourself space in the armpit chest. And then gently release, just bring your legs into cross legs, into swastikasana. Hold onto your knees. Elevate your heart area up to the ceiling. And then turn to the right side, digging the back hand into the floor, elevating your heart area to the ceiling, turning the chest. And then come back to the centre. And then turn to the left. Just drawing your abdomen across your ribs and your shoulders, feeling how you just open up your energy as you turn. And then come back to the centre. Just let your breath settle. Just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. And then just turn around, just sit yourself down onto your heels with the bolster between your knees. Lift up into the chest and then just stretch yourself along your bolster, lengthening the chest away, lengthening into the arms, trying to keep the seat bones down. They'll probably lift, but try and keep the seat bones down. Extend into the chin. Just lengthening your armpits into your elbows, into your wrists, into your palms. Trying to draw the tailbone down to the heels, lengthening into the palms. And then just gently push yourself up into your heels. Just again, just observing your energy around the head and the sinuses and the throat and the chest. And then just come down onto your back, have the bolster for underneath your knees, have the blanket for underneath your head. And then gently release yourself down into the floor. Just let go of the muscles of the arms and the legs. Just make sure that you feel like you're in a good straight line. Breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. Just feeling how you can just release into the floor, feeling that your energy maybe is not evenly dispersed. Maybe there's more energy on one side than the other. So use your breath to, the in-breath and the out-breath, to distribute that lightness of energy evenly down into the toes, into the fingertips, into the top of the head. Okay, when you're ready to disturb yourself, just wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers, bring yourself back into this pose of shavasana. And then bend your knees, bring your feet onto the bolster, have your knees together, just press your back into the floor. And then draw your knees in towards your chest, just have a little rock top to bottom from side to side, just a gentle massage on the spine, and then just roll over onto your right side. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position, just a final cross legs with your hands in namaskarasana, just a final spinal lift. With your hands in namaskarasana, close your eyes and draw your breath in through your nose and down into the abdomen. Just be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions, the forward bends and the twists and the reclining poses and the breath work bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just acknowledge the energy you have released around the heart area, and send some of that good positive energy out into the world. And then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. The tips of the index finger and the thumb together in just a gesture of peacefulness and wisdom that we can carry into our day. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel as though we really lifted your energy, cleared out a little bit of the brain fog, and you feel like you're full of good, positive energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.